and welcome to the VLF Nation Spotlight. Before I interview our guests for this recording, uh, let me give you this lead in. Uh, Almost 2 decades ago, um, co workers became friends, and friends became brothers. So, as the friends got married, they began to have children. So, since the friends were now brothers, they had nieces and nephews. And actually, the nephews outweigh the nieces. It's only two nieces in this group. So, who I'm going to interview um, on this segment is my nephew. In a world where, if you're into sports, uh, young men are looking for to be sports stars, basketball stars, football stars, by definitely. Um, and then there's some, not my nieces and nephews, but looking at today's kids, um, there's some that have no inspiration at all. This nephew has set a high goal um, in what he wants to do in his future. I'll let the interview speak for itself, but I'm going to introduce to you Jason Mabry. This is Jason Mabry, and this is his quest. All right. Good evening, everyone. I am here with Mr. Jason Mabry, my nephew, and he is setting his sights on a goal. Before we started the recording, I asked him exactly, was it more directing, and he said it's more screenwriting. But the questions that I have will fit in. How are you this morning, nephew?
I'm doing pretty good. Happy to be here.
Good, good, good. All right. So that being said, this is your second or third year now,
Third years. I'm a junior.
and how many more years do you have to go with this particular field of interest?
After my next semester, one more year.
One more year. Okay. So, I know what you're doing, and I saw at least one of your smaller works. Have you done any more since then?
I've been working on some ideas. Been more just coming up with general ideas, but I haven't written a script in a minute. I do intend to do that soon
Okay.
because I've had put some ideas I want to like get down on some scripts recently.
Okay. So, um, I guess my first question to you, what is your catalyst for wanting to be a screenwriter?
Well, I tried to do directing my first 2 years of school, and then I decided that I actually prefer the writing aspect since I have a lot of ideas that I have in my head, and I want to like focus on developing those as opposed to like shooting them. But in terms of like general inspiration, I would say my father Chuck introducing me to different works in media, shows, games, movies, that kind of thing.
Right.
Maybe you want to work in that field.
Okay. Um, so is directing off the table?
I wouldn't mind doing it, but I really do prefer screenwriting over directing.
And why is that?
It is a lot less technical, and I can have more avenues to go down, I'd say.
More avenues to go down. Give me a little more context on that.
So with screenwriting, I've seen like screenwriters who like start off as comic book writers or start in the comic books, move on to TV, start in TV, move on to comic books and like other pieces of media, video games, so on and so forth.
Okay.
As opposed to directors that kind of stay in like the film industry. So I want to have that like ability to like move to different fields if I so wish.
Okay. So, screenwriters are sort of like behind the scenes. Uh, they're not as well known as the directors and the producers and such. Um, Now, I personally know probably more directors than screenwriters. Do you have a, let me ask the original question. Do you have a particular Black director um, that comes, that has been my first, I mean, of course, I came back in the days of Black exploitation and such, but I think my first focus on a Black director was Gordon Potts, who did the original Shaft. So, so let me ask you first: do you have a particular director that proves to be inspirational, and then after that, is there a particular screenwriter? Because you and your dad, you would always get granular with whether we were reading something or whether we were seeing something in the movies or on television. So, is there a particular director or screenwriter that you are impressed with, and or you wish to use them as an inspiration?
I'd say right now, I'd say Jordan Peele is a pretty good director that I keep in mind, and he's also writes his scripts because he started with Get Out. My dad took me to that like out of nowhere. It's like I never didn't see anything about the movie, and I was very impressed about when I went to go see it. I'm like, oh, this is a very good movie. And I saw Us and what was the recent one? Nope. So I
No.
saw those films of his, and I was very impressed with them because of how they would subvert your expectations or tackle more like headier subjects. Like Nope has the alien aspect, but it also focuses on like the human element as well. So it's kind of like I want to be able to like blend like more high concept ideas, but also still keep that like human emotional core that he manages to keep.
Okay.
Screenwriter, I a bit harder to say. Hmm. I really don't have one right now. I mean, so because I've realized that whoever writes the story may not be the one who write the script,
Right.
and the person who writes the scripts tends to change over time. So I'd say that one's a bit more difficult to answer.
Okay. Okay. All right. So let's this next question is um something that has gotten up under my skin. Um and it does affect directors, probably definitely screenwriters, and probably the company that puts out whether it's the big screen or the small screen. So my next question is, and I'm looking at my phone, not looking away from you. In an age where movies, television shows are being influenced by social media, sometimes even before the release of them, um, do you think this will be a concern for you as you move forward?
I will. I think so because it is something you kind of have to consider whether like people will how people will take to it in a way because we discussed it a lot in my producing class like how distribution channels have kind of changed and how TV networks, independent like filmmakers and streamers are just trying to adapt to this new landscape we're in. So I'd say social media can be a tool because it allows you to like get more engagement, get people like see how people are feeling to a certain topics, maybe provide inspiration. But I'd also say it's like it can be negative in a sense, like with review bombing, where people will just try to lower the reviews of a film for no actual reason as representative of the film, just for like vague reasons, like their own prejudices, for instance.
Uh-huh. So
So
that
I
leads to my next question. What is your opinion about the amount of influence that, like you say, maybe they don't like a woman, maybe they in our context, maybe they don't like the Black person doing it. And I'll tell you, one of the things that gets me is I adopted Alex as my son's um, habit of we look at a lot of Marvel movies. That's our thing. You know that. So Alex adopted specifically for the Marvel movies, that he wanted to feel surprised. He wanted to see it. He wanted to see the Easter eggs and such. So he doesn't look at the trailers. He might look at the first one, but as you know, as trailers get closer to the film being released, it gives you more and more and more. And if you're not careful, it can give you the entire story, you know. So, but what is your opinion that a troll, a hater, or however you want to put it, can influence that industry? What is your personal opinion of it?
I do think it's very pointless because I prefer I when people give me a criticism of a film, I really need them to explain why they don't like it as opposed to it was bad or it was a thing like how does that end? Like I was like, oh, this movie had a woman. I'm like, okay, how does that just because it has a woman in it, does that affect the story? Does it like is it like how does that affect the characters? You're just giving me some vague notions, so it's very just like pointless critique that really does not like tell me anything about the quality of the film that I am hoping to see.
Right.
It was something like, oh, they did not handle like the writing of a woman properly or something, or relies on stereotypes. I'm like, okay, that's an actual criticism. That's fine. But if it's just like some vague thing, then I think it's just pointless nonsense. It doesn't really need to be listened to.
Right. I have not seen the Marvels yet. Um, but I've seen different things come across where they're suspending all future release of projects because of this. And I guess I do feel a needling, I guess you say, because I know that the three leads are women. I know that it is a Black woman that's behind the scenes in the director's chair. Um, and it goes back to what you were saying. I'm wondering if these prejudices are getting in the way of the film really being what it is. And I've seen that happen a couple of times. Have you seen the Marvels yet?
Oh, yes, I have.
Okay, so without spoiling anything for me, and you know your dad was great with that. um, what was your opinion of that particular film? Because I see so much out there now, so I want to hear it from you. What was your opinion of this particular film?
I thought it was pretty fun. I do agree with some critics who are like they really do rely on the comic book angle, so it kind of has that comic book weirdness in it in a
Okay.
way, and I did enjoy that. But I think some elements could have been tweaked a little bit. But I think that's more of a more mark of Marvel as a whole at the moment, as opposed to this film by itself. Because this film by the actors in it were good. I enjoyed them,
Mhm.
and I think the action was fine. But I think it's just like things are kind of like a little disjointed, like all over the place, and just in the film industry as a whole right now, like films are losing money left and right. So that's kind of like contributing to that as well, I'd say. Like just less movies have been making as much money, especially the big blockbusters, with the exception of like something like Oppenheimer or Barbie.
Mhm, mhm.
But I think the film is pretty a decent watch. It's like shorter than other Marvel movies, but I'd say it was fine.
Right, I did hear that it's the shortest release yet. Now, and this is off my questions. Is one of the things is that I also, what that gets under my skin is, I think for whatever reason, people think that every movie by a director, every Marvel movie, every franchise is supposed to perform amazingly. I guess the last two Marvel movies, counting the Ant-Man Quantumania, may have not brought in the cash that it normally does. But I think, my personal opinion, that there are times that you're not going to hit them out the park. I mean, you don't see that in the sports. You don't see the home run being hit. You don't see that particular, Let's take Odell Beckham. Everybody's want to see, and he hasn't gotten the chance. I'll say that because I think Odell is good with that. But I think it bothers me that you know it's all doom and gloom when something like this happens. Even the thing that's going on with Jonathan Major, um, which I really hope that whatever things he's going through, because he's making a great character, not just Kane, but he makes a great character, and he's done great character roles that up to now. So I think that my personal thing is that um, I don't like the undue influence. Me and your dad came up in a time, like you said, where it wasn't so much, it was posters. You know, it might have been a clip on the television. Now, you almost see the whole story. So that's one of my personal. So let me get back. So you're in your third year, right?
Yes.
Okay. So if there was someone that came to you and say, Jason, I'm really interested in this, um, what can you tell them about, what advice could you give them about what you've learned and that you've experienced up to this point?
Hmm. I would say that it is difficult to sort of break in. You have to like work to build your experience. Like I have learned the importance of getting on different sets or different film sets over my time here. Because so far I've been on 4 film sets, but I really wish I'd been on more so I can get that experience. Because like you can see how the film works, how it goes from like page to screen, little intricacies, technical details. So I would say anyone like who is hoping to get in the film making industry, like try to get on some sets. You don't need to be like in a specific position. You can just be a production assistant, like help out with like minute things around the set. But I would also say figure out what specific field interests you and see if you're willing to stick with that once you get into it. Because I started off as directing, and I realized that after shooting my first film, I wasn't as interested with that as I was with screenwriting, and I changed my concentration. I know some people who are in the film program at my school, um, were undecided, and then they decided to settle in into a certain field, like post production or directing. So I think you really need to figure out which field you want to go into, but also just know, things change. I mean, some people go in as writers and end up being directors. Some people end up being sound and end up being writers. Roles change in this industry over time, I would say.
Okay. All right. So, what is your what's your end game? What's the big picture for you after you take care of these next couple of years? Where will Jason Mabry's focus be on?
I want to write more feature-length scripts, maybe some short stories, see if I can find anyone who'd be willing to produce those so I can like get more of a portfolio going. But I also just want to post some stuff on this professional film script writing outlet called The Blacklist that has like a bunch of like unsold film scripts just sitting there. So like some agents might come by and see it as like, oh, this looks like an interesting script and pick it up or try to talk to me about it. But I can also just enter into competitions as well and just see if I can get anything coming from that. Uh, I'd say I do want to just try to get on more film roles, like more like industry stuff or like independent films, just so I can get that more professional industry experience as opposed to the college student experience. But I would say the overall end game is I have like 4 different series ideas in my head. I really would hope I can get those made along with one of Dad's old scripts that I hope to refine.
That's where I was going to go. Have you ever thought about rewriting one of his scripts or working on one of his scripts?
Yeah,
Because
I would love to do that one day. As like once I have more experience, I don't want to have that be one of my first ones and potentially butcher it.
right.
Uh, but I do want to like that is something I want to do one day in the future. Just turn one of his scripts into a film and do something with it.
I'd love to see that happen. I was his sounding board before you, where I read a lot of his stuff. Um, and I don't want to mention any names here, but they wouldn't even know. But is Wilder one of the scripts that you were thinking about
I
messing?
believe I have one of them actually here. I have the Jester.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay.
and
Okay.
there are a few other scripts lying around the house somewhere. Like some might be in the garage.
Yeah, I definitely could because your dad was he was a good writer. He was a good writer, and unfortunately we lost him all too soon. But I had talked to him um, some months before that I wanted to see about releasing some of it and maybe portions of it and seeing what people thought about it because I loved it. Um, and Garland and the guys liked it, but I would love to see you do that. I would definitely love to see you do that. So I'm not going to keep you too long. I usually end my interviews with a more personal question, and I'll end it the same way with you. You're the oldest of three. Um, I've known all of you since you were born. I think I saw you 4 days, 3 or 4 days after you were born, and the rest is history. How is it being a big brother?
It's very interesting. My brothers Ryan and Devin, they just turned 17 yesterday, actually. So it was very interesting seeing how they've grown up in a way and have become a bit more mature. Because I'm very proud of them because they have made mistakes, so have I. But they've managed to stay on the right path, I'd say. Like my brother Ryan is like starting to find religion, and that he's going on that path right now. So I'm proud of him for that.
Okay, okay.
And my brother Devin's just kind of sticking to his own thing, but he's become more vocal, I'll say, about recent things than before. So that's good to see from him. So I am proud of both of them, even if I don't necessarily show it in the best of ways all the time.
You guys are amazing young men. And your dad was, you know how tight we were, and your mom is I, she is one of the strongest women I know.
Yes.
I know. I may get her on here when we find something to talk about. But again, I'm not going to hold you. I want to try to get this out. Not sure whether I'm gonna get it out in the next day or so or in the next 3 days or so. But I will send you a link to it so that you can share it with anybody.
Okay.
So, in closing, is there anything you want to say to the 3 or 4 or 5, 6, 7 or 8 people that will really see this? But I'm thinking this one will get a traction. But to the people that will see this, is there anything you want to say?
I would say thank you for having me, but also figure out what you're passionate about and pursue that. I would say my my family has definitely had people who have like made decisions based on financial, and while it is reasonable, they ended up regretting that. So if you have a dream, just pursue it, even if it may be a little challenging. Like if you can, go about it.
I thank you, nephew, for being on. I mean, I always enjoy talking to you, but then we got a little deeper this time. So I'll have to see the Marvels and then we'll compare notes.
Oh
So
yeah.
stop this recording. Don't go anywhere. I want to speak to you for a little bit. Hold on. So that's been my interview with Jason Mabry. I'm very proud of what Jason is doing. Uh, as I said in the film, I've known him since he's been born. Um, I guess I'm their uncle, I'm their godfather, but Jason and Devin and Ryan, the twins, are amazing young men. And as you saw, we lost his father last year. Um, when I talk about the brothers, we actually lost two of our number last year. And as I was working toward this interview with Jason, um, I had already in the making attempts to set up an interview with one of my other nephews. His dad is Garland Crosby, and he is Garland Crosby Jr. We affectionately call him BJ. Um, but I'm working toward an interview with him, and I just kind of thought that um, I guess it's where we worked at that we kind of wanted more from our children, and that's not to say that anyone wants any less from our children. Um, but I think we all probably worked for the goals of getting them to the agency where we worked, and as of yet, none of them work there, but they have all made their ways through life. The twins are just turned 17 yesterday, um, and I'm thinking, if I'm not mistaken, they may be the youngest of the kids, but I'm thinking of doing more spotlights on them as a more human natured, more to get away from some of the serious matter to see how the kids are faring right now. So I'm adding more onto this spotlight that I didn't want to add, but I didn't want to just cut it off. So again, thank you for this spotlight. Spotlight number 4, Chasing a Dream, with our guest Jason Mabry. Thanks again. Thank you, and be blessed.